Hello, and welcome again to yet another amazing episode of your favorite podcast, the Emerged Believer Podcast. I'm truly glad that you're here. With me today is an incredible guest of mine, Ifedayo Osideinde. He's a devoted believer, a proud father of two beautiful girls, and a seasoned cybersecurity leader who values discipline as a cornerstone of both personal growth and professional excellence. I'm truly honored to have him on this show to share his remarkable journey, a journey I would say is shaped by love, loss, resilience, and a steadfast hope in God. His story is one of courage, healing, and enduring strength found in his faith in God. I believe this conversation will bless you deeply. So sit back, plug in those AirPods, and be inspired by this heartfelt and powerful episode. Okay, hello Ife once again. Welcome to the Emerged Believer podcast, and thank you for being here today. I know that your journey hasn't been an easy one from my own view. Yes, to hear from your view, but I know that it hasn't been an easy one. And I'm truly honored to, that you're willing to share your journey with me, with us. I know that life itself has a way of shaping us through joy, sadness, pain, and your story is one that I know that speaks to a lot of resilience. It speaks to a lot of faith, fatherhood, and I'm just so happy and honored to have you here.
Thank you, Ayade. And I must say I'm glad, I'm elated, I'm excited to be here, and I'm thankful that this is going to happen because, well, as we go along in this, you realize why I said so. But I'm just saying thank you for bringing me on the podcast.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll just dive right into it. First of all, I'll ask you to share a bit about your journey as a believer. Let's just start about talking a bit. I know you can't share the whole journey with me, but a bit about how your faith has evolved and how that journey, has shifted or deepened through the different seasons of your life.
Yeah, so I would say that journey of faith, it's peculiar, but it's nothing special in quotes. I mean, just like the Bible would put it, there's really nothing new, But then it is peculiar because everybody's journey is personal to that person.
Yeah.
We will all have different experiences, and those experiences are going to shape our belief. But one thing I would like to thank God for is the foundation. When I grew up in a time and in a place where there was so much emphasis on, God. So you couldn't have escaped it. The environment I grew up in. I would say I'm first of all thankful for that, because the foundation is what determines a lot of things in life. Everybody is going to be shaken. Everybody is going to encounter different kinds of experiences that will shake you to your core. And a lot of people are going to lose their faith. And when you listen to their story, you'll be lost for words, because there will really be nothing to encourage them with sometimes. You'll just be left with an option to just pray for them. But if there's a solid foundation, if there's a very solid foundation, it's just like when Jesus was describing buildings to his disciples, that parable saying, build it on the sandy soil, the wind came and blew it off. But those that were, well built, solidly built, everything will come at them, and it will look like they are almost, but somehow they'll find their way back into the loving arms of God. So for me, that journey has been a journey that I would say, if that foundation was not there, I can still remember my mother. When I tell people, I can still remember my mother reading out Bible stories to us. It was like a job. You dare not be at the table where she's doing devotion when it's time. No, it's not even devotion. Devotion is in the morning.
Okay.
Those Bible stories used to happen in the evening. Right. And she had this very big Bible that had illustrations. Not that regular my book of Bible stories.
Oh, okay.
This one was different. This one was very big. really, really big. And it had so many illustrations, and then they'll write out the stories with all the diagrams, the images. And then she will now add her own, just to make it lively. So it was like a job. You come back from school, you have to finish your homework and finish your house chores and better be at that table.
Listening to the story.
She might even be busy doing something and come late. You cannot be late. You understand? When I say these things, it's like I'm almost saying that was how she was able to build that into. So you grew up with all those kinds of things. It was like a formatting. And I always tell parents, you have to intentionally, I'm a computer person. That's what I do. So there's something we call formatting. Make that computer ready to receive whatever you want to pass into it. That's how it should be for when you're raising your kids.
Right.
Because if you don't do that, you see that the other religions, they do that for their children from a very, very young age.
Yeah. The discipline.
That discipline is there. That discipline, I don't think you can do anything without that discipline, really. It won't work. You will not achieve what you're trying to do. But what I see these days is a lot of Christians, they take it, you hear things like, it's just a small child, let him.
Yeah, I've heard that phrase before. It's too small, let him sleep. Don't let him join us for prayer devotion. It's too, let him just sleep.
What you don't know is that is when they are highly receptive to anything you put into them.
Yeah, I agree.
And you never know when that foundation is going to shake. No matter how comfortable a life you want to create for your children, some things are going to happen in their lives that will shake their faith. If you have not built that foundation, for them, they will now develop this resentment for God because of what has happened. And everybody's going to taste it. It's going to come in diverse forms. It might be challenges at work, it might be challenges with a person, it might be challenges, very gruesome issues. I was lucky to have that kind of foundation. And then going into church as a youth, it was intentional. You would know I used to play instruments in the school. It didn't start in the school, it started from home. Because when my mother was busy doing all she was doing, my father was busy saying my child has to learn an instrument in the church. He wanted a situation whereby his son was playing an instrument in the church where he was attending. It was kind of a thing of pride for him, but again, it made me always be in the church. Because that was where I could practice, So I will always be there. So if you don't find me at home, you can go and check the church. I will be there. And when you're practicing and then it's almost time for Bible study, you can't now say you're leaving the church.
Yeah.
You understand? You must join that prayer meeting because you were in church. What excuse are you going to give the pastor? The pastor lives in the church. He saw you. Then he will now not see you.
Bible.
So those things, they were happening like they were normal. But actually, they were building things in the spirit, in the mind, because again, there's this part of the Bible that talks about renewing the mind. What that renewing the mind means is intentionally, consciously or subconsciously, always allowing, God to, run through your mind all the time. So that went on throughout my youthful life. I would say it really helped. And then I had parents again that were super disciplined. I used to tell somebody that they would ask me, how did you escape peer pressure? Why didn't you get into drugs or, those normal vices? I told somebody, I didn't realize this until I became an adult, but I think my father was doing this intentionally. So he would ensure that I didn't have any free time. He ensured there was no idle. So if I'm on midterm, how many days midterm? 3 days midterm. Okay. He used to work with the federal government, but then he had some private practice. So when he's going for those private practice, he would ask me to go with him. And I would join his laborers and receive the pay that he will pay those laborers that day. And the job was very tedious. So when we are done, I would get back home, say past 6. You'll be like, okay, well, you have worked hard today. You can go and play with your friends. But I'm tired. I can't go anywhere again. When the next morning you're going to drag me out again to follow you, the only thing that will be on my mind will just be to eat and sleep and rest. And he would do that. I remember even in the university when there will be strikes, he will intentionally go and register me for one thing or the other.
Just engaged.
He will fill up that time intentionally so that I was too tired to then mix with, anybody that would introduce any vice to me.
Right.
And of course, there were prayers. I will hear my mom praying and crying and committing all her children onto God's hands. When you remember these things, you know that you cannot disappoint these people. So now those were formative years. And then you become a youth, you become an adult, and these things start happening in life and they want to shake you. But God's arms are just there, loving. So I'll just say my Christian journey has been one of foundation was important. Remembering the son or the daughter of whom you are. Seeing those examples being set before me, I can't. They are just there. They are in my mind, so they really helped. So that's why I said it's nothing special. I was affected like any human being will be affected. I was shaken to my core like any human being would be. But those were the things that kept.
That's such a profound reminder. It's the shaking will come, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right? And it's that foundation that we have laid in those previous formative seasons or early seasons of our lives that would hold us together or hold us steady in the storm. And honestly, that's just a very profound reminder about the importance of laying the right foundation. And thank you for sharing that. Honestly, it has got me thinking to a lot of things right now. But it's a really powerful reminder that it's that foundation that's one of the things that kept you going. It's that foundation that has been laid for you. And God bless mommy. God bless mommy. We are grateful for the harvest, the fruits and all of the seeds that she had sown in your life. So I'll move on to my next question. And I guess this is where it gets for me emotional, and I hope we don't get emotional on this recording, on this episode. Okay, so how did you process the grief in those early days, and did you feel that you allowed yourself to grieve properly? Because I know people say we grieve differently, which is true. We can grieve differently. How did you process grief? Let me start from that. Like, how did you process grief? Did you feel that you even properly grieve? Did I lose you?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
Yes, grief. So I will just say, at that time when I lost my wife, that was January of 2018. That would be the third significant person that I'll be losing, because in 2008, that's December of 2000, no, November 28th of 2008, I lost my mom after I prolonged, she was ill for like 5 years. And I remember I was to start my final year exams December 1 of that year. And then she passed away November 28th. Now, before November 28th, I can still remember September 12th was when she called me, because in those 5 years when she was ill, I used to go back home on Fridays, to take her to the hospital, because UCH then. And then she would go for a chemotherapy and all. It used to be a very grueling time. UCH can be very tiring. And then chemotherapy wasn't helping. The moment they put it into her, she just goes numb, like she's not there. She wouldn't even realize when I've driven her back, And then that went on. I think it used to be every 2 weeks. I've tried to put all those things behind, but I know I used to go back home regularly to take her to the hospital, UCH. And then by September 12th, I was made to understand. She just called me home and, she was giving some messages that looked like final messages, because we had been told at the hospital that this is not going to improve. She just had a few more months to live. And then November 28th, she was gone. Now, that was the first one, and it really hit me. As a matter of fact, it devastated me. I don't even know how I managed to write those papers, But then, again, I summoned up courage. For me, I didn't do well in those exams. I passed, but I used to have a target for myself, and I didn't hit any of those targets. But I tried to, do other things just to sort of like, well, I really wanted to make her proud. You stand there on my final year on the convocation day and see me get prizes and all. Of course, she wasn't there. I carried those things as pain, you know. And then my father just began to, in less than 2 years after that, he just began to deteriorate suddenly. And I'm like, what's going on? And he would tell me he was depressed. He couldn't, there was really nothing he could do without my mom around and all of that. So, and he himself began to just, I would just say, fizzle away, And then his was, that's 2010 now, August of 2010, August 2 of 2010. So I had all these things on my mind, and I used to wonder, but I used to pray about all these things every day. There was no day in those 5 years of my mother's illness that I didn't pray. And then when my dad's own started, and it just couldn't be helped. No matter how much we go to the hospital and they try to say, you would know when somebody cannot be helped. That was the situation. So it will not look like maybe we're even wasting the prayers, because this man clearly
was ready to go.
I mean, we will sleep at night, and I will hear him in the middle of the night crying and saying he's seeing my mom. He wants to, he's seeing her and he wants to go up to meet her. And I'm like, what are you seeing? This man
Where are you going?
rest and sleep. It was clear that he was really not here anymore at that time. And I must tell you, as a matter of fact, my father's one hit me more than my mom, because I was really closer to my dad than my mom. So in fact, when he was to die, I was the one who made he asked me to make his last meal, and I cooked it, he ate it. He asked me to come and sleep on his bed with him, like he just knew that. And then in the middle of the night, I started noticing he was having breathing issues. I tried to say, let's go to the hospital. I called on our neighbors. They came upstairs, but they said we shouldn't waste our time. He doesn't want to go to the hospital. He's ready to go this night.
Wow.
There was nothing the neighbors didn't do to bring him. We couldn't even lift him up. You will know that he didn't want to go. The neighbors left. I just sat there looking at him, and when breath is being taken out of somebody, and it just went by morning 7:30 to 8, he was gone. August 2 of 2010. So I carried all that pain those years, and I had siblings who were still in school. And this is me who just came back from service year. I had not really found my routine and all, but those things made me become an adult very fast.
Quick.
I mean, in fact, my younger brother had to be delayed for 1 year. He already had the admission, but I mean, there's nobody working to get any money, so he had to stay back. We had to now start doing some things for ourselves, some jobs. We used to teach. We had a house, so with the tenants then. So we turned some of the flats. We turned the whole wing of our flat into a tutorial center. He will teach English. I will teach maths, just to make money. And then we're saving towards, and we were blessed. I would say that because the streets turned into a beehive of activities. It was like that was the only place where children could learn maths and English. People were bringing their kids. But we knew that this money, we're going to save it to send him to school the following year. And we did that. He was able to go to school the following year. And then I went on to seek for greener pastures. At least we're lucky there was no rent to pay. So, but we were, we had to feed and all.
Yeah.
We're doing that. And of course, my music, I know I used to play in studios. I would do some, studio sessions, recording a few, artists, and make some money at some churches. So that was the way we're surviving until I was able to. Now, fast forward to my wife. I didn't know. I mean, if somebody told me that will happen, it was not in the horizon, because she wasn't even sick. We went to the hospital normally to put to bed, and then this complication started. I mean, I was there, but I don't want to go into too many details, because personally, still, after that occurrence, I almost became a gynecologist, because grief can make you have to go to and study and what could I have done differently? Because again, I used to be somebody I'm still that kind of person who is very proactive, meaning I would foresee the risk ahead of time and do everything humanly possible to make sure that risk does not
Prevent it.
crystallize, to prevent it. But this is me now. With everything I did, this still happened to me. So when it happened, I must tell you, yeah, I was broken. I caused a lot of sin at the hospital. I didn't let them move her from the bed. I laid beside her for a long time, trying to tell her stuff. I had planned a really big, gift for her, when she puts to bed. Planned a lot of things. I mean, all these things had to now be cancelled. I think it took about 2-3 hours before they could separate me from her corpse on the hospital bed. And I remember I think I switched into a mode that was almost like I wasn't feeling anything, because I know I put her in my car and I drove her to the mortuary myself. That was after all the documentation from the hospital. And I, paid for the embalmment and all. And then next day, I remember I was on my way to Ishara. Ishara is my hometown. I wanted to go and sort out, the digging of the grave and everything. I drove there. I got the man who was going to do it and, started digging, told them all the specifications. I was doing everything. People were at home. Supposedly they came to greet me, to sympathize with me, but this is me going about, going up and down. Now, at a point, when I came back, I remember coming back from Ishara that day, her older brother came all the way from Oshogbo, and then he was already at home, and they told him I had traveled. He was like, traveled? Why did you people allow that?
In the right state of mind to travel.
And he even drove himself there. What's going on? So when I came back, he kind of scolded me. I mean, he's the firstborn of their family, so he's way, way older than my wife. So I regard him as my older brother too. So he scolded me. I'm like, people can do this thing for you. Why are you stressing yourself? I remember I couldn't even say anything. I wasn't really talking. I was just doing things that needed to be done. And I think that's a dangerous state to be when one is grieving, because if the person is going to harm themselves, nobody will be there. You will not know.
Yeah.
But I know I was numb. I wasn't feeling any pain. I wasn't even crying. And then I'll call for updates. I remember going to get the caskets. I was just arranging things. But now I understand that it's a grieving situation. That is a type of response to grief, because I had a lot of questions. It was like, once I finish all these things, I'm going to sit God down, and then we are going to talk. But I mean, I was just fooling myself. You can't sit God down. And your duty as a human being is to praise and worship God, not to ask him questions. You can't ask him questions. Do you understand? But I had a lot of questions. Why me? What is going on? Why is it that everybody I love is going away? And why is it that it is me? I mean, this is me who would do everything possible to make sure bad things don't happen. I mean, if my wife is traveling, for example, and I'm not going to be there, I would look for a hospital. I mean, she's not sick. Nothing is wrong with her. But I'll look for the closest hospital to where she is. And there was this form we used to fill as, where I was working then, so that you and your loved ones, I mean, you, your wife, your kids can access medical treatment, free of charge. They just send the bill to my office. It was not the HMO per se then. HMO is the insurance. This one was a company that was, so they will send the bill to the company itself. So they didn't know how they will sort it out, but you have to fill the particular. I will fill the form and put it in a bag and sign it and everything and tell her this is. In my mind, I'm not like, well, you might be ill where you're going to, so I don't want you to get stranded. So I am that kind of person. I prepare like that. For everything I'm doing, I prepare. I mean, somebody was asking me one time if my kids got all their immunization, and he was saying he wants to speak to my wife. And I looked at the person like,
I'm the one keeping track, if you don't know.
Even my wife does not keep track. So they cannot miss anything. I'm that coordinated, and it is still me that these things are happening to. It is the rationale. What else am I going to do to prevent these kinds of things? She might even forget some antenatal days. I don't forget antenatal days. I was so on point that my bosses in the office will intentionally say, Ife, when is the antenatal day? Let us make sure you are not coming to work that day. So they would in advance tick off those days, because they know that I won't come. I'll tell them I'm taking my wife for antenatal. I was that organized. I was that arranged. Nothing would catch me unawares. So it really hit me to now find out that there was things just went awry and just went out fast. Like hail and hearty now, and then the next moment, just to me, if I'm in pain. My wife doesn't complain about pain. She has a pain threshold that's very high. So if that kind of person tells you they're in pain, and you know that there's an emergency. She doesn't succumb to pain. She can cut herself, something's piercing her, she'll just be smiling and just take care of it. I mean, cramps, you would understand. Menstrual cramps, all these things, you won't find her shaking or folding up in one corner or, things that normally you would expect that people will respond to pain in a particular way. She doesn't. But I heard her clearly tell me she was in pain. So I knew that this was beyond the threshold that anybody can survive. And then that was why I went into that state of, I don't even know if there's a word for it, but it was just my subconscious doing everything. So I'll just get up and travel and check this, check that, ensure that the grave was well dug, well cemented, well prepared, organize the ambulance. I was doing everything. That older brother of my wife was kind of trying to scold me. Somebody else now told, look, leave this guy. If he doesn't do these things, what they are observing, the way I'm behaving, he might just break down and we may not like the outcome. So I think this is his way of coping. Yeah. So they now had to ensure that somebody was always following me everywhere I was going. But those are the preliminary stages. But we then got to the D-Day, the burial day itself, Then it dawned on me that this is it. They're putting her into the ground. A lot of people, I was surprised. So, and I'm grateful to them. And I had almost my entire department at work came to visit me. And at that time, we were about 75 or so in that department. Wow. And almost all of them, the whole street in the estate was filled with cars day to day. And on the burial day, they got a whole bus and people drove down from Lagos. We all went to, so they were there, even my top bosses, when I say top bosses, I mean the top of the top bosses, they were around, so there was a lot of support. But, all these things will come and then everybody will go back to their homes. And then
you're left in your space.
And then life will not stop. I had two, my girls, the twins were 2.5-year-old then. Life wasn't going to stop. You now have to try to figure out what you're going to do next. And that was the confusing. I now crossed from that level of grief to the confused state. Because I didn't really know what to do next. When I say what to do next, I'm handsome. I can take care of them and all, the normal stuff. How am I going to go to work? How are they going to go to school? Yeah. How am I going to handle these things? These things are not typical things that men do. And I'm not saying this to say a man should not help his wife or him, but let's face it. There are some things that are more become natural for a woman than a man. But again, I was in the dilemma of, I had a way I wanted to bring up my kids. I had a way I wanted to create my family. And it stemmed from the foundation I had. Parents who had my time. So to me, the best way to bring up children is to have their time. Having their time means being with them, being present, Yeah. So that was going on. How am I going to be present now? So I was in a very confused state. I had my brother was around with me for some time, his wife and his family. But again, these things will just happen for a time because they now have to go back to their workplaces and all. So we got to that river, and what I dreaded most, what I feared most now had to happen. I had to let go of my girls to go and stay with my wife's mom. They could have stayed with my own mom, but then my parents were late. So I had to take them there. It was a very painful decision for me, packing all their things and then, because they were not staying in Lagos, they were staying in Unshakable, packing all their things and then driving down to Unshakable, registering them in a school and all of that. I was broken-hearted. I was devastated. I had tears in my eyes, but people around will think I was crying because I lost my wife. No, I was crying because it's not looking like I won't be able to do this for my children. When I was driving back to Lagos, after, settling them down, it was a very teary moment. I remember all the policemen I met at the checkpoints, they were wondering why does this guy have tears? What's going on? And then they'll just wave me to, just keep driving. I got back to Lagos, but then by the third day or so, something just spoke in my spirit that, look, you cannot allow the devil to do this. You have to find a way to make this work. to make sure your kids stay with you so that you can still achieve those things you set out to achieve by way of upbringing for them. My brother and his wife had gone back to their station. I had a sister who was she's still completely dependent on me even as an adult, and that's because she has some cognitive issues that didn't make her really. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. She couldn't do things at her age level, so she's still someone who needed to be supported. That kind of person cannot take care of
your kids.
children. But hey, I was reading the Bible at some points and I stumbled on that passage where Jesus was saying he gave somebody 2 talents, he gave another person, and each of them found the one who received 1 talent buried his own, didn't do anything with it. The others, traded with theirs. Trading, you would think trading in that place only means the commerce, of trading, the economics of. No, it means so many. You can interpret them in different ways. It also means, what do you have? You are in a dilemma. You can't say you don't have anything. You have this person. She only needs to be trained to be able to do some things. I set out to do that. In my mind, I was like, yeah, I've taken my kids to Oshogo. They will not spend more than one time in that Oshogo. I'm going to bring them back so that they'll continue their schooling in Lagos. Second term. Second term starts in January, but I took them to Oshogo in August, September of that particular year. Then I started, trying to help her. I took her to a hospital. They checked to see what was going on. It was a very expensive test and all. They gave me all the results and things that you could do to help her learn stuff fast. And that was what I did for her. And in my mind, I was just praying to say, these 3 months, I'm going to use these 3 months and she's going to measure up. I'll teach her how to light the gas, how to warm water, how to make, because she had those learning disabilities that will make her forget these things. So it means I had to help her to repeat the process over and over again. She gets to a level where she will not forget. So we're doing this. I still had to go to the office because then I'd now come back to the office. So, I still need to solve that problem of time again.
Yeah.
But I just said, let me do this. So I did that and she improved greatly. In fact, she was happy that I could trust that she would do this thing and not just like, there's a way to, when people are like that, at some point they may feel useless to themselves. And it's a dangerous state for them too. Because when a man or a woman feels like they're not useful in life, it can lead to depression. But she was then, and I noticed there was a spark in her eyes now because she felt like I wanted to trust her to do something for me. When she was able to learn, and I felt like, okay, December, she could cook this, cook that. She's not going to be forgetting fire or, things that could lead to danger. But I was able to help her because I had those test results and they told me what I could do to assist. I did all of that. And so I was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. This is somebody that could have been left to just be dependent. But today, and I'm happy I took that step. It was very expensive, but I had to do something to help myself. And then I would travel down to Oshogo to go and, check on my kids like every 2 weeks. And it was a very emotional time. Every time I arrived, I could feel they will come to me, they will hold me. And the only thing they will be telling me, these were 3-year-old kids now, telling me, Daddy will want to be with you. Daddy will want to be with you. And I'll be wondering, why are they not happy staying with? And they'll just be like, Daddy will want to stay with you. Daddy will want. And when I sleep, they will come to my bed and lie down on me because they didn't want me to go without them. So those were very emotional times for me because I knew I had to cook. So I would wake up very early and prepare and just leave. And I know that by the time they wake up, they'll start crying. I mean, they tried to stop me from going, but I still went. I mean, they will intentionally come and lay down on me such that if I stand up, they will know. But I mean, they're young kids. So sleep will take them out at some point. But when those things were happening, I just knew I can't survive this because at some point I'll close from the office and go back home. I mean, you go back home, you get home around 8 or past 8 at night, and then you lay in bed and the house will just be empty. And this was a house that was bubbling some few months back. It's now empty. Nobody, just me. I would stand up, pack my clothes for the next day, and drive back to the office. And I'll go and sleep. I'll sleep in my car inside the premises of the office. Next morning, I just quickly brush. Luckily, where I was posted to now was such that there was a hostel.
The shower.
So I could shower and all of that. And then I'll just look like I just arrived in the office. But no, but I slept overnight in the office.
The car.
I was doing that because I couldn't sleep at home. The home was it was almost like it was haunted, you know. But I survived it, and I was the happiest man when I went back to Shubo in December and said, look, I'm going to take my kids home now, and they won't come back here. You can imagine that it wasn't really a very pleasant situation. I mean, they are their grandparents. They also lost their daughter, and the kids were like their comfort.
True.
But I also needed to take care of them. So some of the people who were not happy, years down the line, they are now okay with the decision.
Yeah.
But I was happy because I now had reasons to come back home. I now had reasons to leave. I now had reasons and I had things to occupy me. I now had to, even if I'm not going to cook for myself, I have to cook for them.
Yeah.
I have to take them to school. And then the problem of time now came, but I had gracious bosses. They were able to arrange all of that for me. And I'm grateful for them till tomorrow. I mean, I've left that organization now. Some of them too have left that organization till tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm grateful to them. One of them celebrated his 60th birthday in Faria. I remember a day, there was nowhere to keep the kids, and I had to go to work. I took them to the office.
Wow.
And it was a weekend. So I wasn't really expecting my boss to show up. Out of the blue, he showed up. I think he forgot something in the office, and then he came to pick it up. And then he saw them. I thought he was going to take it in a bad light. He didn't say anything, but he did something that made me realize he was not, he didn't have any problem with it. The following weekend, he came to the office again, saw me walking. Then he asked, where are your kids? Where did you keep them? They are not here. And I was like, oh, really?
He noticed.
Okay. No, not that. He saw them that day, but, I thought it was going to be a problem.
Okay.
He didn't see it as a problem. Left to him, where is he going to keep them if he has to work in the weekend? Better bring them. Since he didn't see them there, he was kind of even worried, like, where did you keep them? Why didn't you bring them to the office? He shouldn't be surprised that I drove all the way to Akure for his birthday, because I knew that he cared about me at the time. When I was down and out and I really needed that support. A lot of people I had that support. Work. And then on the home front, I had support from neighbors when I needed to buy clothes for them, their undies. I had people who were my wife's friends within the estate, and they were just ready to help me. I remember one of those days I was rushing. You carry their food bag, carry their school bag. And one of the women looked at me from her house, and then she walked up to me to say, look, this man.
Let me just help you.
Let me help you. Let me help you. I will take them to school. I'll go and bring them back home. Something else I forgot to mention, when you are grieving, I remember I was overprotective when I brought them back. I couldn't trust anybody to take care of them. When this woman said, look, Bababi, let me help you. These things, you're struggling. I will take them to school for you. I'll bring them back home. You just rest, go to the office, come back. For the first 1 or 2 weeks, she was doing that for me. I was following her.
Oh.
I would sit in the car. She would just be smiling. She was like, okay, I understand. But when I felt I could trust her enough and all, and even my kids were even warming up to her, they started calling her our mommy.
Oh.
And they want to go to her house on Saturday and Sunday to play. She was really helpful. And quite a number of them. I remember them now. I'm far away from them now, but then they helped me. They helped. They really helped me.
Wow. Amazing. This journey that you just shared in like how many minutes? It's like a sum total of how many years. And oh my God, it's a lot to take in. It's a lot. Grief, I know grief is not, I've experienced grief myself, so I can relate to some of the things that you said. Thank you for sharing. I know the point where you were talking about the moment where you learned that your wife passed, you were numb. I think that's another state of there are different responses to grief, just like you said, right? And I think at that point you try to compartmentalize that moment, and you just did not want to feel emotional, right? You just wanted to get into the things, activity, and you were just trying not to focus on the emotional side of things. And some people respond to grief in that way as well. Honestly, the level of pain that you described, from when you lost your mom to your dad to your wife, is not something that one can actually prepare for, especially you like to prepare ahead, right? You like to plan. That pain, that loss is not something anyone can actually really prepare for. So I can't even imagine the weight of doing all of that, and you're still trying to process what just happened. Like, you were trying to, get the corpse to the mortuary. You still had kids that were under 2. You were still trying to do all of that, and you did not even want to process what just happened. So honestly, it's a lot, and it brought me to remember down the story towards the end of what you were sharing, the Bible verse that says, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. As much as you were going through that situation, God is just God, and he has his ways, right? Just so that you knew that he was with you, he did not leave you. He raised men to be invested in your advancement, the advancement of your family. So he kept all those people around you, your colleagues, your bosses, managers. They were all working in your favor, and everything. He was just there with you along the way. And that's how God is, where it says, when you pass through the fire, when you pass through, I will be with you. God just wanted you to know that he didn't leave you, and he was with you all through that journey. As much as it felt so difficult, it felt so painful. Yeah, I think God was just doing his own thing. So all those people that were trying to help you, it was just a way of God, showing you that I'm raising men for you. Don't worry. I know you're going through this tough time, but I'm raising men for you. And yeah, thank you I'm also processing it, but thank you for sharing, honestly. You were saying you wanted to say something?
No, I was just saying, I could see God in all of that, but it didn't take away the fact that, yes, I mean, there were so many times that I would cry.
True.
So many times at work that I would just leave my seat and go to somewhere and just cry my eyes out. There were so many times in church. And these are places where, you always used to go together.
Yeah.
My wife was even well known in the office. I think maybe that was why they all, a lot of them came, because I'm not one to hide her. Everywhere I go, I, I go with her. I display her. She'll come and meet me in the office. And everybody will know that this is. So when she died, they all felt like, their friend died. When we go on team bondings in the office, I'll take her along. And I might not even see her until the end of the team morning, because she had become so fond of all of them. They would just go their way and have fun like she was a member of staff. And also I could see that really also played a part in, making them give me that level of support. And it helped me cope.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So the pain was there, but we're moving on. Because, like I always tell some people too, I'll tell them, look, if the only thing, because I know that people coming behind, they will encounter these things. Not necessarily, what I encountered, but they will encounter their own version. I'm not a hero of any sort. But then I want to be able to tell somebody who's about to lose their faith that, look, there's nothing new under this. If God could help me do all of this, and I'll tell them a bit of the story that they can relate with, and all. Do not think that God has left you alone in this. You have to sit down and see what God is trying to teach you or show you or help you achieve with all of these. And in the end, you just discover the beauty that will come out of all those ashes at the end of the day.
Yeah.
A beautiful story can always rise out of that very, dire situation at the end of it. But you just have to keep moving and keep learning and seeing what God is doing.
Yeah.
When I see people say, I don't believe in God, I know personally that it will most likely be that they lost somebody. Even when I'm watching a movie and I see somebody, a character saying they don't believe in God, they don't trust in God, just wait a bit. You will discover why. At the end of the day, it's always about the fact that they lost somebody. Because it's one of the most heart-wrenching things that can happen to you. Somebody you love, you were not expecting. I mean, it's not the same as losing an aged person. I mean, there's still pain, but something tells you, well, the person has lived a full life.
Yeah.
Unlike when you lose somebody you're very dear to you.
At the prime of their age.
I see a lot of people lose their faith. So when it happens to people around me, the first thing I always tell them, look, don't hate God. Don't hate God for what has happened. Instead, begin to seek out what God is trying to do and make sure you don't lose, because it will be like you lost on both sides. If you lost somebody, and then you're losing God, you're cheating yourself. You're cheating yourself. You have lost this person. See the beauty that God is about to create from this experience and make sure you get it. Don't lose it. I see it happen and I try to admonish people that way too.
Yeah, it's good because even the scripture says that God comforts us in troubles so that we can also comfort other people. If we went through those situations, one of the reasons why you go through that situation is for someone else. Someone needs to benefit from what you did that made you triumph. So so just like you're encouraging other people that are going through similar situation because you went through it. That's one of the beauty that has come out of your journey. Yeah. I think, in order not to take more of your time, I just have one or 1.5 questions. I know we've talked so much, like you've said a lot of things. Honestly, you have really gone through this conversation from beginning to the end. And I think another thing that I wanted to touch on was with your daughters. I know they're older now. Have you been able to have that conversation of explaining their mother's passing to them? How did that conversation go?
So to be honest, they were really very young. They were like 2.5. So the reality it's not dawning on them. I think maybe they begin to see it when when in school and they say, invite your mom and it has to be your dad.
Okay.
To be invited. And then when it's time to invite your dad, it's still your dad. You'll be invited. And there are some things that it has to be just only mothers. And maybe I cannot go for that one. And then it will now, that's when they usually just, try to say, okay, this is what this man, because every time, once it's January or when it's a birthday, I try to sit them down, tell them, I show them pictures, I show them videos. They like all those pictures, videos. And I tell people, keep memories. Take a lot of pictures and a lot of videos and keep them. Because you never know. They might just turn out to be the only things you have. They will not necessarily death now. A person can travel and you'll never see that person again. Or you never see the person for a very long time. Anything can happen, not necessarily dead, but try and take. Because now when I show them these pictures, I take a lot of pictures. I take a lot of pictures at random and just keep all of them. So I use them to tell them stories. I take them to a graveside, something. I didn't even plan it, but it comes on me. I feel sad. Once that day is approaching, I feel very sad. So on one of those days, I just took them and we traveled down. I showed them the gravesites. I told them a lot of stories. So that's how I try to make sure I keep that memory going in their minds. There's too much documentation for them, so they know.
Yeah, they know.
They know, but they don't have the reality is not dawning on them.
On them yet.
Very young. So I just try as much as possible to make sure they have it at back of their head. You had a mother. This is what she looks like. These are the things she used to do for you. This story. So hopefully they can live with this. I send all those pictures to their emails so that when they get older, they have it. They can keep going through them, and I'm hoping that they'll be grateful that I kept those memories.
They sure will.
So
they sure will. Yeah.
So that's just beautiful. How I just tell them the stories. Not that they have the reality,
full picture,
but then they sit down and they are happy, they are smiling. I'm hoping that the memories will go with them for life.
Yeah, it will.
So that's how we do it. So, but they are growing, they are independent, and that's the thing. I observe that when you are deprived of something, you tend to develop an adaptation to help you.
Yeah.
So they are going on 10 now. As far back as when they were 7, 8, they could already microwave their food, make water for their tea. I just have to wake up and, are you guys ready? You're ready to go to sleep?
Ready.
Let's go. So they develop independence
quickly.
You can't say because you didn't have a mother, you won't learn the stuff that your mother could have taught you. So I try to just inculcate these things.
You're doing an amazing job, Ife. You are honestly. I give you, it's not even flowers now. I give you the whole garden. You're doing an amazing job. Thank you for everything that you are doing. Because this seed that you are sowing, God is seeing it. And at the end, we will all reap the harvest in Jesus' name.
Amen.
So the last word, what advice do you have for someone who has lost, maybe a man? So 2 parts of that advice: a man who has lost his partner. What advice, if you were to be seated with that person that has lost his partner, what would you say to him? And even if the person is not a man, like anyone that has lost their partners, what would you say to that person helped you the most?
So I'm going to be very realistic with this because I've actually done it before. Let me start with the woman. I had a friend the same day that I lost my wife. In fact, as my colleagues in the office came to my house, as they were landing in my house and they were sympathizing with me, they got another call that in fact, I attended training school with the person, just lost her husband.
No.
So there was confusion, like, what's happening? What's going on in the organization? And this lady, of course, went through the motions and all, but picked herself up and all, took their daughter, went to the US, and she's living her life, doing her. So one thing that grief does is, if it wants to weigh you down, but if you can summon the strength to rise above it, it can also help to be a fuel. I must tell you that I was not a very senior person in my organization back then. Grief, because I was grieving, I had a lot of things going on in my head, and I couldn't grieve the way a layman would grieve. You now be open to vices. I see men, then they now go into fornication, drink, they do drugs and all. I couldn't do that because of my upbringing, but my head was full. Something needed to help me. I gave myself to learning. I would say that was opium. I gave myself to sporadic, voracious learning. Now, this is the 7th year since my wife passed. And I think I've written almost 40 certifications.
Wow.
And I've had 2 master's degrees in that space of time.
Wow.
To me, that was like my own opium to help me douse So I was voraciously studying. And when I say certifications, these are not free certifications. These are paid for in dollars. Some of them $700 and something, $1,500. And I gave myself to learning at that level, and it pushed my career fast. I noticed the speed, things that would have taken me about 15 years to achieve by way of climbing the corporate ladder. I did it in 5-6 years. It propelled my career. It's a win-win at the end of the day. So for women, another woman later in life, a friend of mine, she lost her husband, and then she was devastated. And a lot of times, especially in African setting, the woman is not really doing anything significant by way of work. When she called me and I told her, look, yes, you are very sad, your husband died. The moment you are done with the mourning and all. There's a reality waiting for you. You have 5 kids. School fees is going to come. They are going to be hungry. Your breadwinner is dead. You have to tighten your belt and do something for your life. And what I used to do is introduce them to a lot of digital skills. I introduced her to, so she learns a lot of digital skills and all. And today she's earning in dollars and she can take care of her kids. She's sad about the loss of her husband, but she's not weighed down because she can comfortably take care of her kids. She called me the other day that she's about finishing building a house. So to me,
wow,
for women, I'll tell them, you're going into a marriage, make sure you have something that, we're not saying your husband is going to die. We're not saying, but make sure you have something you're doing. But if you find yourself in that situation, do not cower. Don't succumb to pain, and then you get so depressed and then you become useless to yourself. Grieve, but as you are grieving, keep moving, keep trying to develop yourself, because at the end of the day, that pain, you turn it into fuel for you to advance in life. Now, for a man, the advice is simple. Not everybody will be able to be hands-on to take care of children. So if you have children, you know in your heart of hearts that you are not cut out for catering for children. If you have your mother, yeah, if she can come and stay with you, fine. But if it's a case of, you have to take the kids to her, ensure that you still find a way to be in your kids' life, because children, and there's a study that backs this up, they need a father to be in their life. So mothers are not designed to give that discipline that a father would give. Mothers are designed to give love, and to be very caring and pampering sometimes, although some mothers could be very strict. But the makeup of a mother involves care and pampering and all. But the makeup of a father involves care in a different way. I saw a video on LinkedIn. The father and the son were moving, and then they saw some intertwined ropes that was blocking the road. The father, because he was very tall, crossed over it and walked. But the son would not maneuver his way. If it was a mother that was holding that boy, she would lift him up and cross over the rope. But guess what the father did? The father kept moving. The son was crying out. The father kept moving. And he moved away to a distance and then sat down and told the son to come. Come. Like, I'm sure you can come. You just don't know it yet. Figure it out and come. That's the way fathers.
Tough love.
It's actually caring, because you will not always be there as a parent for that child. If you don't allow that child to figure out how to come out of those difficult situations by themselves, you would have raised a child that is spoiled, the way we used to say it here in Nigeria. So, and guess what? The boy tried, got himself twined up, untwined himself, and then figured out how to cross over. And that's it, lesson learned. Tomorrow he'll be able to do it by himself. So that is why a father is equally very important in the lives of the children. If you're going to take your children to be with your parents, by all means, do that. But make sure you are focused. Make sure you don't allow yourself to be derailed, because there will be a lot of distractions.
Sure.
For a man, you will get a lot of distractions. And I'm sure you understand what I mean.
I understand.
So even if he's not given to vices, the distractions will come. If you allow them to derail you, and then you end up now creating a half family. I mean, you are not organized such that you don't create confusion. You don't go having children with different people because you are distracted and all. You are going to create chaos. So you have to put yourself together, remain focused, and trust God through that process, and make sure that that beautiful thing that God wants to do by way of that tragedy that has just happened, ensure that you don't miss it at the end of the day. That's just my advice to both parties.
Packed advice. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing such a deeply personal and powerful story of yours today. Thank you so much. You've indeed walked through fire. I would say you faced incredible loss, and yet through it all, you're here sharing your journey. You have, shown, you have displayed, or you talked about how your faith wasn't for once shaken, even though those situations could have shaken you, but the foundation that you have had helped you to stay through. And I'm sure that as many of those that would listen to this conversation, they would find strength, just like I shared in that scripture that says that, God would comfort you so that you can comfort other people, and you can be that source of comfort for others. And, I'm just grateful that you're able to share everything and the advice that you've also shared with everyone today. So thank you very much for coming to this episode. I'm grateful for the honor once again. And if you're listening to this episode, and you resonate with any part of this conversation, I encourage you, to also share your story as well, because we're not meant to walk through grief or hardship in isolation. We cannot do it in isolation. And I think you kind of talked about it. One of the things grief does, it will isolate you. So you have to be intentional and make sure you are around the reach of people. So reach out, lean out to community, and know that the healing is a journey in itself. So thank you, Ife, once again for joining us today, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invite. I'm happy for everything we've discussed, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. And to
Amen.
anyone who is grieving, know that God is in that situation. You are not alone. So don't allow the devil distract you. Don't allow the devil to, destroy, what is about to happen for you. Try and remain focused. Don't lose God. Stay. Go to church. Don't run away. Join a group in church. If you are, if the music team, the media team, whatever it is, be around, people that will encourage you, and make you laugh in those situations. Don't lose God. I beg you. Don't. God is still God.
He is.
He will make everything beautiful.
This time, yes.
No matter how bad, the situation is at that time. Thank you very much, Ayo.
Thank you.
And to you listening to this episode right now, remember, you're not alone in this journey. Bye for now.